Well, we'll cross the studio now to Dipti Laurent, who's here for our second look at the day's paper. Dipti, there's a lot of concern in the press today over U.S. accusations that China is aiding Russia or is willing to aid Russia in the war in Ukraine.
Well, it's on the front page of the Financial Times today. Aaron, China has signaled a willingness to provide Russia with military support like drones. It's prompted the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan to issue China a warning of consequences if that happens. There's a really good opinion piece in the Financial Times as well today in which Gideon Rachman explains that China and Russia had announced a no-limits partnership just before the war on Ukraine. But as that war drags on, whether that partnership is truly no limits will become more and more clear. He explains that a quick, successful war in Ukraine would have suited China just fine. It would have laid the groundwork for a future Chinese attack on Taiwan, and it would have also reinforced China's narrative about the inexorable decline of American power. Instead, now it's facing down the barrel of potential sanctions if it aids and abets Putin.
Now, Dipti, what do Chinese papers have to say about this?
Well, obviously, they are providing a different perspective. China slams the U.S. for its arrogance. That's how the Global Times, the Chinese government's paper, reports on its front page today. The paper also reiterating that meeting between Jake Sullivan and his Chinese counterpart in Rome yesterday as a meeting of dialogue, but one with no respect or cooperation. The China Daily, another paper that's close to the government, prefers to focus on Chinese help that's on the way, not to Russia, but to Ukraine. The paper noting it's the third such humanitarian shipment of supplies that includes baby formula and blankets.
The war is also proving to be a thorny issue for another one of Vladimir Putin's, the little allies he has. That's Viktor Orban, the Hungarian Prime Minister.
Well, that's right. It's interesting because Hungary will have elections in early April. This article from the Balkans Insights website, it's an investigative reporting network, explains that the war in Ukraine has radically transformed the political reality in Hungary ahead of those April 3 elections. It's proving more embarrassing for Viktor Orban, who's long been a champion of Vladimir Putin. Hungary's opposition candidate, furthermore, has really pounced on Orban's Putin connection and is trying to frame the election as an existential question for Hungary. Is it part of the East or is it part of the West? Orban's government, meanwhile, has been quick to pivot away from the pro-Putin advertising and his connections to the Russian president, instead focusing on its humanitarian efforts, welcoming over 200,000 Ukrainians. It's worth noting that this Tuesday, thousands of people are expected to partake in a protest against the war in Ukraine that's organized by two pro-Orban groups, but it still remains to be seen if voters will be swayed by Orban's sudden political strategy change.
All right. The Western papers, meanwhile, are also hailing the bravery of a Russian woman who posted up an anti-war banner during a live broadcast.
Here she is, an incredibly brave Marina Ovsyannikova. She defied Russia's laws criminalizing opposition to its war in Ukraine. She posted up a no-war sign on live Russian TV yesterday. Also written on that banner, Aaron, don't believe the propaganda. She's been arrested since, but what's interesting is to show you how the Russian media is reporting this. And just to give you an idea of how restricted the press is there, this is the Novaya Gazeta, a Nobel Peace Prize winning publication critical of the Kremlin. They also published this photo as a photo of its day. The only thing is they explained in their on their website that it's forbidden to publish the full banner under the country's criminal code that essentially makes it illegal to criticize military troops. So you don't see the whole message on their banner, but they still found a way to publish that image.
All right, Dipti, finally from you, the French president is being roasted in the British papers today for appearing to copy his Ukrainian counterpart.
Well, here he is on the Times of London today, Aaron, bleary-eyed and wearing a hoodie, far from the well-coiffed suit-wearing image of the French president that we're used to seeing. If there's one article that you read today, make it this one from The Telegraph by Ed Cumming. He explains that the, quote, inappropriate lust for a combat gear-wearing president, Volodymyr Zelensky, was already at epidemic levels. I quote, men wanted to be him, women wanted to be with him. Emmanuel Macron, though, seems to be having a particular case of Zelensky-itis, I quote. That is, he's so envious of his counterpart's media campaign that he was trying to emulate it in a hilariously misguided attempt. How else can you explain these pictures, these black and white pictures of an anguished, unshaven Macron. No doubt he's envious of Zelensky's sudden rise in the opinion polls, and just weeks away from French elections, he can't, quote, bank on France being invaded. So it's normal that he's going to great lengths to get a piece of that media popularity.
I think he's also wearing a military sweatshirt in those
That's right.
images.
It's an elite parachute unit. That number that's on his sweatshirt.
Right. Even though he never served, hard to imagine
Exactly.
how that would sway
And
voters.
he's in the Elysee, not at war.
Exactly. With the gold background. All right. Well, Dipti, thank you very much for that press review. That's the end of this edition, but stay with us. I'll be back after the short break with the latest on the war in Ukraine.